I told y'all don't let us win the championship, and clearly nobody could stop it. I warned y'all, so I'm just going to continue to destroy people on Twitter, as I have been, and Instagram stories. I just want to say thank you all, and as always, everybody else. I love y'all.
You said this championship might be the most surprising. What surprised you?
The reason it was a surprise is we kind of stunk the last 2 years. I don't know if you noticed that. So to be able to bounce back from where we were is pretty incredible, and testament to these guys.
Now, Steph, the win in Game 6, you were as emotional as I've ever seen you. You cried on the court. It obviously was the end of...
Who cries on the basketball court? I mean,
no crying in basketball.
Tell us about being overwhelmed, a little emotion
crying,
there.
You're crying.
People were looking for it. Tell me about the tears and what that all meant.
I think everything that's been said on the stage, whether you say it out loud or whether you internalize it, like you carry all of the journey with you every single day. And so to know what we've all been through, what my brother went through for over almost 3 years, what we went through as a team to try to retool, regroup, rejuvenate what we had, and just like taking snapshots of the last 3 years, all that came out when the final horn sounded, just because it wasn't just the work we put in last week, it wasn't the work we put in a month ago, it was the work that we started, once we changed buildings and trying to carry that championship DNA with us. But that emotion was everything, just letting it out, letting us know that we back. And then I got to the real question, is what they gonna say now?
All right, as I mentioned earlier, we're joined by two NBA champs and a man who's trying to bring a championship to Bourbon Street in C.J. McCollum. C.J., welcome. So what are your thoughts on the scene out there in San Francisco thus far?
Personally, it's hard to watch. Man, as a competitor, you want to be out there, you want that moment, but I'm happy for them knowing some of those guys personally, knowing the journey that Clay went on, like having those injuries, not being able to play, having to watch his team, seeing him get emotional during games, being able to talk to him after games and just saying like the game needs him, and being able to talk to him after we played him that last regular season game of the season, just being happy to see him out there. I think I have a great appreciation of the game because of injuries and things that have taken the game away from me, and to see what he's gone through personally, I'm really happy for him and his success. Happy to see Steph be able to carry the mantle. You know what I mean? He's been under a lot of scrutiny for one of the guys who's considered one of the best to ever touch a basketball, the greatest basketball shooting player ever. To be doubted because he didn't have a Finals MVP, I think is blasphemy. But him being able to establish that legacy and that kind of put the exclamation mark on his career, if you will, was really cool to see for him as just like a pure basketball fan. But as a competitor, you want that to be you. You want that to be your family celebrating, dancing with the trophy. You want to be able to celebrate and experience that moment. And I think, with the two champions I'm sitting here with, you guys got to experience that. And you envy success in that sense because you want that for yourself.
You know what? I agree with everything that CJ just said, but you know what stands out to me the most is the pettiness and the noise talking, right? Because I think that's going to drive others around the league to actually go at Golden State, and I think Golden State is going to embrace that. So, I mean, I think it's great for the NBA. I know a lot of teams, a lot of players around the league are going to be, if they're not watching it, it's going to pop up on their phone eventually, some clips or whatever, Draymond may be saying. And I love that Draymond is stirring the pot because that makes me look forward to next year and the competitive type games and the way teams are going to come out and try to win that championship. Because when you watch a parade and you're part of a parade and you see that ceremony, it's nothing like the parade. I always said it when we won in 2008. I don't care about nothing else. I just want to get back to the parade because it's a joy that you can't even describe.
This has just been a tremendous journey for this team. And obviously, each championship along the way has been a very meaningful and memorable moment for each player. But I'd have to say this is probably, and you saw through Steph's expressions and emotions, I think this is the most important one. Obviously, that first one is big. You say what you want about them winning 2 with KD, but this one, after all the adversity they've been through with Clay being out for 2.5 years, Steph's injury, Dre's injury, retooling this team with young guys that took a little while to understand their roles and fit in and buy into what this team is about. And then like CJ touched on, all the scrutiny that Steph has taken. He's not this, he's not that, he can't do this, he can't do that, he's never driven the bus, quote unquote. I mean, I think now he definitely owns the bus. I think someone said that earlier, and has kind of really cemented and continues to cement his place in basketball immortality. So this is just an exciting thing. First time for the Sacramento side of, or excuse me, the San Francisco side of the Bay to really get their own parade for this Warriors team. So I'm really excited for these guys. And like Perk touched on, Draymond is definitely stirring the pot, but that's what you do when you're on the top, because so many people took shots at him, this team, their players, and everything about them. They're on top now. They got to enjoy the moment.
Yeah, listen, man, 941 days for Klay. As you mentioned, Steph, not only is he driving the bus, I think he owns the bus company at this stage, Matt. And look, I remember that first year when everybody was hurt. I did a game early in the season. Coincidentally, it was Boston against the Warriors in San Francisco at Chase Center in 2019, and nobody was around but Draymond. And I remember in the third quarter, Steve Kerr called the timeout. And he kind of put his arm around Draymond and kind of tapped him on the chest. And in that interview at the end of the third quarter, I asked Steve, what did you say to him? He said, I just wanted to tell him I love him. I know we're going through a challenging time right now, but his leadership is invaluable. So these guys, despite as dark as it was for them on the court, they definitely believed in each other, and this is the culmination of that. Now, let's take a look at the title odds going into next season. The Warriors have the shortest odds to repeat at 5-1 according to Caesars Sportsbook, followed by their finals counterpart in the Celtics, as well as the Nets at 6-1. Next up are the Bucks, the Suns, and the Clippers before the Heat come in at 14-1. So spinning this ahead, with the parade, and now we're putting a bow on the 21-22 season. Perk, I see you in Miami. I want to know what the storyline is there. Are you trying to be Bam Adebayo's backup? Like, what's going on there? What's the biggest storyline for you this upcoming offseason?
Well, the biggest storyline for me is what the Lakers going to do. And I know I get tired of talking about the Lakers, but you want to know, with the new hiring of Darvin Ham, how, what their plans are for as Russell Westbrook. We hear the Kyrie Irving rumors about, him testing the waters and the Lakers being the front runners. Might be one of the teams that's the front runners to actually pursue him. And then also the biggest thing about the Lakers is Anthony Davis. We saw what LeBron James did last year from a numbers wise, averaging 30 a game last season. I want to see what AD is going to do. I have high expectations for Anthony Davis. I think he should come back with a chip on his shoulder. Matter of fact, I know he's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to remind people not only why he's a top 5 talent in the NBA, but why he's a top 5 player in the NBA. And right now, I got Anthony Davis as my front runner to win MVP.
Interesting, Perk. Interesting. It's crazy. We all know that the second a champion is crowned, that the next thing is what are the Lakers going to do? So we all know that the whole summer is what is going to happen in LA with this new coaching staff, with their big three. But my most intriguing story of the offseason, I think, is Kyrie Irving. I mean, what are we going to see from him? Is he going somewhere? Is he staying? And if he is able to go somewhere, as Perk just alluded to, Kyrie Irving is a top 5 talent in this game when he puts basketball first. In the last handful of years, he hasn't necessarily put basketball first. And whether Kevin Durant admitted it or not, I'm sure that frustrated him at times this year because he needed his counterpart. A lot of the times he didn't have him. So whether he stays in Brooklyn, if he's heading out here west to LA to the Lakers or the Clippers, I just want to know where basketball as a priority will rank for Kyrie, because we all know on this panel when he's locked in, there's not too many people in the world better than Kyrie Irving.
For me, I think the most intriguing thing is a combination of what you guys talked about. I like to focus on player movement. As a player, I think it's really cool when guys exercise their freedom, their rights to become unrestricted free agents and leave and go other places. You look at the likes of Bradley Beal. He's a guy who's going to become a free agent. Look at James Harden, although I think he's going to stay. He could become a free agent soon. Obviously, you talked about the importance of Kawhi Leonard, right? Coming back from an injury. I think he basically changes their team. He becomes not a part of the player movement, but a player addition to an already really good roster in LA with the likes of Norman Powell. Obviously, you got PG and so on and so forth. But like you said before, Kyrie Irving is big domino, right? He's a big domino. If he leaves, that changes a lot of things for a lot of teams. You talked about both LA teams. There's a chance that he could go to some other teams on the East Coast as well if he becomes an unrestricted free agent.
And I think what we're talking about right now is what makes the NBA continue to grow as a brand. Because even though the chaps are crowned and they're riding down in San Francisco right now celebrating, the attention will still be on the NBA until the season starts, for exactly what CJ said, is there's so much star potentially moving or stars actually moving. In no other sport, no other major sport do stars move around like they do in the NBA now. So that's why it's a constant, okay, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen? All the guys we just listed could possibly be on a new team next year. And again, that kind of attention and focus on the NBA is why the NBA continues to grow as a global brand.
Yeah, speaking of which, like, I'm curious to see what the East teams do, right? What Boston adds to this already great team that they have. Do they add a more traditional point guard to their team? We know that, look, I've known Pat Riley for 20 years. When he's this close, he's going to try to make a big move. He's going to try to swing for the fences. Whether he actually accomplishes that is a different story. And then Philly, right? James Harden. Like, what's that situation going to look like with Philadelphia? Are they going to give him the Supermax, the $270 million? So I just think that there's a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. And I haven't even mentioned, of course, the previous defending champions, the Milwaukee Bucks, who I would imagine will come back healthy and add to their team as well. So to me, the East is still going to be wild, and we'll see what happens with Kyrie in Brooklyn. But much more to come here on NBA Today, including Steph and the Warriors are celebrating in